Listeriosis-related food outbreaks presented by Ava, Gianna, Norma, and Adam. What are foodborne illnesses and outbreaks? These are illnesses and outbreaks that occur from bacteria that infects undercooked, uncleaned, or unpasteurized food products. 48 million cases of illness in Americans can be linked to foodborne illnesses each year. This number includes 128,000 hospitalizations and 3,000 deaths per year strictly from foodborne illnesses. What is an outbreak, you ask? An outbreak is when two or more people are diagnosed with the same disease from the same source. Some of the most common foodborne illnesses and outbreaks include Salmonella, Toxoplasmosis, and Listeriosis, which we will discuss more in this presentation. Moving forward, we will discuss Listeria. Listeria is known as Listeria monocytogenes in the scientific world. Listeria also happens to be the third most costly foodborne illness in the United States, costing about $2.6 billion per year. After realizing that Listeria is such a serious problem, it was added to the list of nationally notifiable diseases, which means that all cases that are found must be reported to local public health agencies as soon as possible. This rod-shaped bacteria was first discovered in 1924 by Dr. Everett Murray. This germ was also one that caused the deadliest food outbreak in the U.S. Listeria can commonly be found in food production environments such as grocery stores, delis, and restaurants. Foods can become contaminated after they're cooked or before they're packaged, sliced, or handled at home. You're probably wondering, how does Listeria get into the food in the first place? Well, Listeria is naturally found in soil and water. Fresh foods such as meat and vegetables can be contaminated from soil or from manure used as fertilizer. These animals can also carry Listeria, although they may not appear ill. They can contaminate the foods of animal origins, such as their actual meat and their dairy products. We can also find Listeria in processed foods, and these can be contaminated after processing, such as soft cheeses, cold cuts, unpasteurized or raw milk, and foods made from raw milk. Now that we have discussed what Listeria is, where it can be found, and where it originates, let's talk about who is most likely to be affected by this bacteria. An estimated 1,600 people are infected by Listeria each year, and out of those 1,600 people, 260 people die. The CDC states that outbreaks caused by Listeria resulted in the highest percentage of ill persons hospitalized, with 97%. And we can see that restaurants are more linked to outbreaks than any other place where food is prepared. Restaurants are associated with 64% of outbreaks, Listeriosis, and other food-related bacteria alike. Most healthy people can actually combat this bacteria without any serious consequences, except maybe an upset stomach. Except elderly people are 2.6 times more likely to be infected than a healthy individual, and pregnant women are more at risk than non-pregnant people. In 2001, the median age of non-pregnant people diagnosed with severe listeriosis was 71 years old. Newborns rather than their mother themselves suffer the serious effects of the infection more, as well as people with weakened immune systems, such as people with cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, or AIDS. In fact, people with AIDS are almost 300 times more likely to get listeriosis than a healthy individual with a regular immune system. As stated before, pregnant women are more likely to be infected by listeria than a non-pregnant person. Pregnant women are actually 10 times more likely to be infected, and their demographic makes up for 16 to 27% of all listeria infections. Statistically, it is shown that pregnant Hispanic women are the most at risk of being infected with listeria because of traditional food customs that include cheese. So how does someone get the bacteria into their body? Some of the risk factors for contracting listeria from a surface or undercooked food would be from not washing your hands before or after handling the food, any safety procedures that factories may need to follow from slaughter to packaging to home, not being informed of the cooking temperatures of food needs to be cooked to, and any safe handling procedures that can be followed in at-home kitchens, such as not cleaning utensils used on meats thoroughly enough or using a cutting board after it was used for raw meat, getting meat remnants on the counter after cutting them, and not cleaning anything up. All of these factors could be prevented with prior knowledge if people were more informed on the infection itself and how they can reduce their chances. Now that we have talked about what listeria is, who it affects, and what the risk factors are for contracting this bacteria, let's talk about what effect this bacteria has on our inside body and what symptoms people may experience after being infected. After someone ingests listeria, the bacteria quickly grows in the liver. It then travels into the bloodstream where it can invade many places in the body, including the brain, the membrane surrounding the brain and spinal cord, and the gastrointestinal tract. So how would I feel if I ingested this bacteria? Well, the symptoms of a listeria infection can take 3 to 70 days to show anything, but we can see that people have fever, muscle aches, severe headaches, nausea, vomiting, stiff neck, confusion, loss of balance, and even convulsions. Pregnant women also have a longer incubation period for the infection, which adds difficulty in diagnosing the illness. We also saw in a series of 191 cases of listeriosis in pregnant women that 29% of these women had no symptoms at all. It can be seen that listeria is a very sneaky bacteria that many people may not know they are even infected with. This is why research is so important to the prevention of any other listeriosis-related outbreaks occurring. As small as this bacteria is, there's been a lot of previous research on it because of how big of a problem it has been in the United States. Every year since 1957, there has been a symposium on problems of listeriosis, where participants from everywhere come to share cutting-edge findings about listeria. The topics include epidemiology, diagnostics and typing methods, genomics and postgenomics, fundamental microbiology, cell biology, and pathogenesis. All of these in the findings about listeria. The CDC also started the Listeria Initiative, where they say, for more than 30 years now, the CDC has conducted surveillance on listeria infections to learn more about the germ, how it causes diseases, how it's spread, and other information to help protect the public from illness. The CDC's goals through the Listeria Initiative include stopping outbreaks by interviewing all patients with listeria and using a listeria case report, such as a questionnaire. This questionnaire helps get detailed information on the food people ate before they had the infection and helps identify foods contaminated with listeria so they can be recalled. So why do we need to be concerned? There are many actions being taken after listeria is identified in a person. The concern is people are still being infected, the germ is potentially deadly, Infection can be prevented with prior knowledge, and it is a very costly illness for the United States. In general, it is advised that people follow the 3 P's in order to avoid a Listeria infection. The 3 P's include personal hygiene, proactively monitoring time and temperature, and preventing cross-contamination. They say for personal hygiene, it is important to wash your hands thoroughly to get all of the germs off, including under your nails. You should also wear a hair restraint if you're a worker, and clean your hands. It's that simple. For time and temperature, it is said that you should cook raw food from animal sources such as beef, pork, or poultry very thoroughly. You should throw away meats after 3 to 5 days and cheeses after 4 days in order to prevent Listeria from growing on them. The last P is preventing cross-contamination. This is possible by keeping uncooked meats separate from vegetables and cooked foods. Wash hands, knives, and cutting boards after handling uncooked foods and ready-to-eat foods, and washing all surfaces that were used while cooking or cutting. All of these procedures should also be followed by restaurants in order to reduce the amount of Listeria infections given to customers. Prevention for people at risk includes avoiding soft cheeses like feta, brie, blue-veined, and Mexican-style cheeses. Hard, processed cream cheese, cottage cheese, and yogurt do not need to be avoided. Although, people at risk should cook their leftover foods or ready-to-eat foods like hot dogs until steaming hot. Pregnant women and immunosuppressed people may want to avoid these foods altogether and thoroughly reheat cold cuts before eating them. Obviously, there are already prevention methods for avoiding being infected by Listeria, but people are still being infected and hospitalized all of the time, whether it's from a restaurant, pre-packaged food, or something made at home. So what else can we do? Our proposal would be to have easy to follow instructions on safe heating and storing of food at stores and on package labels to help reduce the amount of Listeria infections from pre-packaged grocery store foods, from restaurants, and from home cooking. We also believe that similarly to the employees must wash hands instructions in bathrooms, at restaurants, and in grocery stores, it would be beneficial to have cleaning instructions on slicers and surfaces used at food handling entities such as restaurants and grocery stores, so that the workers do not forget how to properly wash any surfaces that could have been infected by bacteria such as Listeria. So why would we make this proposal? Because prevention is key. Not many people are even aware that Listeria exists, and people are not normally aware of proper cooking temperatures as well as safe sanitization methods in their kitchens. Also, many sliced meats and cheeses are stored in refrigerators for extended periods of time. With prior knowledge of the correct ways to prevent a Listeria infection instead of trying to help it after, it can help reduce all of the Listeria infections around the US and around the world. So how would we go about putting our proposal into action? In grocery stores and restaurants, managers and trainers should work on promoting and then testing workers on health policies such as wearing gloves, cleaning kitchen tools, and washing hands frequently. Correctly teaching all workers to follow procedures lessens the amount of room for Listeria to spread in their workplace. For the consumer, getting stores to add instructions and labels on Listeriosis-related foods would be a great way to do things like help the consumer cook to proper temperatures. Also, having storage warnings such as good for 4 days on cheeses and such, and pregnancy risk warnings on raw milk. It is important for people to be aware of the benefits of correctly washing hands for 20 seconds as recommended by the FDA, and how that can reduce Listeria infections as well as other illnesses like respiratory illnesses that can be reduced 16% through hand washing routines. What we expect to come out of our proposal is a reduction in the amount of Listeria illnesses in the US altogether. When people are informed about illnesses and the proper way to prevent them, infections are proven to be reduced. So if workers in food-related facilities such as restaurants, stores, and factories learn proper sanitization of surfaces, hands, knives, slicers, and other utensils, that means there will be less Listeria bacteria and less Listeria infections. When consumers have proper labeling and education on sanitization, they are less likely to buy certain foods if they are at risk, and it says on the label, which means less Listeria infections for immunocompromised, pregnant, and elderly people. We also would know the proper cooking temperatures, which means bacteria would be killed from the high heat, which would mean less Listeria infections, as well as sanitization techniques being learned at a young age would create less bacteria on hands and surfaces around the home, which would lead to even more Listeria infections being prevented. So how will we know if any Listeria infections are actually prevented from our proposal? Well, we will continue using the questionnaire the CDC gives to patients infected, which will give us data on new Listeria cases after our proposal has been put into action. We can also compare all new cases to all old cases with their prevalence and incidence data. Compare risk group data because they are most likely to be affected from the illness and make up the most cases, and collect data on how many products are recalled from stores compared to past years and what kind of products are recalled. This information will give us a great idea on whether or not our proposal helps prevent listeriosis-related food outbreaks. The benefit of knowing the results as well as the proposal itself is that it can save many lives that are taken from Listeriosis infections. Healthy People 2020 said, for every dollar spent on healthcare, less than 4 cents goes towards public health and prevention programs and policies that hold the most promise for lowering costs by keeping us from getting sick in the first place. So if we can use the money we have to prevent expensive illnesses like Listeria, we can cut down healthcare spending across the country. So in conclusion, Listeria is a very detrimental foodborne illness to our society. It is costly, deadly, and preventable. Not many people know about this illness, so through our proposal and with the help of grocery stores providing information on products, food manufacturing facilities, restaurants, and stores following safe sanitation and handling procedures, adding labels to problematic foods, and awareness of safe at-home sanitation techniques, we can reduce healthcare spending, listeriosis-related deaths, illnesses, and outbreaks, and the amount of food recalled in the United States yearly. Thank you for watching.